creative designers, welcome again to my channel. In case you are new here, my name is Gift. In today's video, I'm going to be showing us a conclusive part to the last video we have on the channel. So in our last video, I showed us how to cut the patterns for this Ankara bubu dress with mandarin collar, okay? But today I'm going to be showing us how to sew this video. So this is a part 2 of the last video. In case you have not seen the last video, please do well to see that last video on how to cut this Ankara bubu dress. I'm also going to be showing us how to fix our mandarin collar, okay? If this is something that interests you, then let's go straight into today's video. So welcome back, creative designers. As you can see, I've already gone ahead to search my fabric. I told us we are going to be joining the bands, okay? So I've already searched the fabric. I've searched every part of this fabric. I also joined the band to the sleeve area. I also searched that area, then I opened it up. I joined it by half of an inch and open up my seam lines, okay? This is very important, okay? And for the zipper line, I went ahead to attach my hairstay interfacing just to give you some form of stability in that part, okay? I searched that part as well. And for my facing, remember we cut out both the front and the back facing. I also went ahead to search every part of the facing just to give it a neat finishing. Remember, we are not going to be adding lining to this dress, but if you want to add lining to yours, please feel free to do so, okay? So to start with, we are going to be joining the fabrics together like so. I forgot to tell us, remember this outfit, the original thumbnail has beading, okay? It was beaded, but instead of beads, I'm going to be using these strips or stripes. I don't know what to call it, but I just love how it looks like. That's what I'll be using. And for the front design, I'm going to be using this lace fabric I cut out. It's about 2 inches wide, okay? So to know the width of the lace or whatever fabric you'll be using, you have to measure the opening you have at the front, okay? So the opening I have here is about 1.5 inches, while the width of the lace fabric I'm using is actually 2 inches. The reason why I made it 2 inches is because I could decide to trim off if need be, okay? So the first thing you want to do is to place the fabric or the lace fabric at the center just like so. Can you see? Then go ahead and place your facing, right side facing the right side of the main fabric. Now remember we are working with the front part, okay? So I'm going to place my facing right side facing the right side of the main fabric, and then I'll pin down. When you pin down, please make sure you have pinned down. You're going to stitch this part I'm pointing at. Please do not stitch this other part. We are not turning the facing with the fabric. We just want to create a clean finishing around this area. So you're just going to stitch down that part. When you're done stitching it down, can you see? This is what I mean. Just stitch down that part and then turn it over to the wrong side. When you turn it over, you're going to notch this part I'm pointing at. Please make sure you notch that area so that it will be very easy for you to flip to the other side, and then you give it a very, very good press. Can you see how beautiful that is? Then for the other part of the facing, I joined them together on the shoulder line, okay? I joined the back facing to the front facing on the shoulder line. This is what I'm talking about. Now, the reason why we added facing to this part is just to give this part a very clean finish. Remember, we really do not need the facing at all, but for the purpose of giving that part a very clean finishing, that is why we are making use of the facing. Next, you are going to place your stripes just like so, or the strips, place them just like so, and then stitch on the inner part. Please do not stitch on the outer part because you are still going to be placing other stripes on it. Just watch what I'm doing in the video, you will understand. By the time you join them together, the next thing you want to do is to pick up your back piece, okay, the back piece for your fabric. Now the main fabric, pick them up together with the front piece and then join them together by half of an inch on the shoulder line. This time around, you are not joining the facing yet, okay? By the time you join them together, this is what you're going to have. Press open your seam lines, and then because the table was too small, that was why I brought this to the floor so we can see what I'm doing. Now for the design, what you want to do is to measure from the shoulder line, that is the center front, about 8.5 inches or 8 inches, depending on what you want. So I made mine about 8.5 inches. Now on the shoulder line, this is for the front part. Then from the opening, I came down by about 8.5 inches or 8 inches. This still depends on what you want, okay? So I measured about 8 inches. I eventually used 8 inches, okay? So you measure about 8 inches or 8.5 inches on that part. On the other part as well, that is on the shoulder line, you're going to go in by or go out now by 8.5 inches. Just watch what I'm doing in the video, you understand. While on this other opening, you come down by the same inches you came down by on the other side. So here I came down by about 8 inches. Now the reason why I said you should not stitch on the outer part of your strips is because you're going to be tucking in the other strips into that part. If you have stitched it before now, it means that you'll be opening up the stitches eventually, okay? For the center back, you're just going to come down by 8.5 inches on both parts, okay? 8.5 inches or 8 inches, depending on what you want, okay? Now, when you have done this, the next thing you want to do is to go ahead and connect the points together using a curve. You can use your curved ruler or you could use your free hand if that is what works for you, fine, okay? I'm just going to be connecting the dots together just like so. Can you see? I'll connect them together just like so. Then next, I'm going to be now the reason why I say you should not stitch the outer part of the strip is because of this, because I'm going to be opening this part up and I will tuck in that strip, okay, that strip of fabric into it. Okay, I'm going to tuck it in, and then this is what you're going to do. By the time you tuck it in, you just sew round using the lines you marked as a guideline. Okay, then on the band or on the sleeve, you want to create whatever design works for you. So for me, I'm going to be adding these strips on a straight line and just join them together, just stitch on it, and then this is what you're going to have at the end of the day. Okay, so now it's time to work on the back facing. Remember, I told us we necessarily do not need this facing, okay? We just needed the facing to finish up the front opening. So what I'm going to do is to pick up my facing and then join them together with my main fabric. I'm not turning the facing, I'm not turning it. I'm not using the facing to turn the neckline. I'm just fixing it directly on the back neckline now. Okay. I'm just fixing it directly. So I'm just going to join them together like so with half of an inch. By the time you are done joining, next it's time to fix mandarin collar. If you have watched my video, the last video on how to draft a mandarin collar, I showed us why this part is going to be the center front instead of the center back, okay? It's because it has an opening. So I'm just going to be explaining to us how to fix this collar by using this part as an example. So first I'm marking out my zipper allowance of 1 inch. Okay, you're going to mark out your zipper allowance of 1 inch. This is because the zipper is going to run all the way through to the mandarin collar. Next, at the top, I'm going to be marking half of an inch all the way like so. Can you see? Because by the time I join them together by half of an inch, I'm going to be stopping right on where I have the 1 inch marking. I'm not going to sew all the way to the other side. Then on the lower part, I'm just going to iron half of an inch in. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. You're going to stop exactly on where you have the 1 inch mark. Okay, then on the upper part I stitch it down by half of an inch. I stitched them down by half of an inch just like so. Then I turned it over and pressed on it. Then this other part I flipped one part in and pressed on it. Okay, while the other part I left it just the way it was. I didn't iron it, I didn't press on it. Now, this is the part I'll be joining to my main fabric, okay? The part that was not pressed on or the part that I didn't iron is the part that I'll be joining to my main fabric. So what you want to do is to make sure the center back of the main fabric is aligning with the center back of the mandarin collar, okay? So I'm just going to place them like so, right side facing right side, of course, and then I'll pin them together using my pins, okay? Please try as much as possible to pin down. It actually makes your work easier. It makes life a whole lot easier, okay? So I'm just going to pin down, okay? Pin down. I'll keep pinning, make sure everything aligns, and by the time I'm done pinning, the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and stitch that down by half of an inch. At this point I was done joining and this is what I have. So the next thing you're going to do is to flip the joining over. You flip it into the mandarin collar, okay? You want to flip it in, okay, into the mandarin collar. So this is what I'm talking about. By the time you are done joining, this is what you're going to have, okay? So you flip it in just like so, and then because you have already ironed or pressed on half of an inch on the mandarin collar, it will help you to know exactly what you're working with by the time you want to finish up. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to flip the two backside over like so, because at this point we need to attach our zipper. Remember I told us our zipper is going to run all the way through to the mandarin collar. Okay, so now it's time to fix the zipper. Please make sure the strategic points are aligning. Actually, this is just the beauty of this whole thing. So make sure the strategic points are aligning. You want to make sure they align, then pin them down. Okay, by the time you pin them down, also ensure this part is aligning. Okay, the part where you have your mandarin collar, make sure it is aligning. Just make sure all the points are aligning. Okay, so now I went ahead to mark out other strategic points. I marked out my front length, okay, which is a half length, which is about 17 inches from the shoulder line. Then I also marked out my hip line, okay. You want to make sure you mark that out. I marked down my hip line, which is about 8 inches from my waistline. I also marked down my mid line. Now, the reason why I did this is because I want to measure out how long the zipper is going to be. Okay, I want to measure out where I want the zipper to stop. So the zipper is going to stop somewhere around here. Okay, can you see? So it's going to stop about 2 inches before my hip line. This is the entire length of the zipper. Okay, the next thing I want to determine is how long or how high I want my slit to be. So I want my slit to be about 22 inches. So I measure that out, and then I'm just going to run a stitch from where my zipper is going to stop to where my slit is going to start from. Okay, so I'm just going to run a stitch all the way down from that point by 1 inch, and then next I'm going to go ahead and fix my zipper. At this point, I'm done. I was done fixing my zipper. So I just want to show us how to finish up the zipper line using your mandarin collar. Okay, I want to show us how to finish up the zipper line using our mandarin collar. This is a professional finishing. So I'll just zip this up so to show you how the strategic points are actually aligning. Like I told us, this is actually the beauty of this dress. You want to make sure the simple, I mean the strategic points are aligning. It is very, very important. Okay, it just makes your work look so flawless. Okay, so I'm just going to unzip this part and then show you how to finish up your zipper. Now remember, this is a mandarin collar and the zipper actually went all the way through to the collar. One of the collar is actually joined to the main fabric while the other one is serving as a lining. Okay, so now what you're going to do is to continue that half of an inch stitch all the way to the end. When you are done stitching it down, the next thing you're going to do is to stitch very close to the initial stitch you have here. Okay, you're going to stitch very close to that 1 inch stitch that you have there. First you stitch on the half of an inch line. The next thing you're going to stitch all the way through to the end, making sure it stops exactly where you have the half of an inch fold. Okay, you stitch on the upper part by half of an inch, then you continue the stitch on the 1 inch line, stopping exactly where you have the half of an inch fold. Now the reason why you are stopping on that point is because you'll be needing the half of an inch to finish up the zipper. When you are done joining, just cut out the excess, give it a very nice notch around there so that it doesn't look too bulky by the time you flip it over to the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this to the other side just like so. Can you see? If it is a bit difficult, you can use your scissors to bring out the excess. Just tuck it in that way. Then the remaining half of an inch, tuck it in nicely. Just tuck it in nicely. Because you have pressed on it, this is just going to lay flat for you by the time you tuck it in. This is the essence of this was the whole essence of pressing on it in the first place. Okay, so I'm just going to tuck it in and then head straight to the sewing machine and stitch very close. Okay, you want to sew in the ditch. So I'm just going to sew very close to that fold. I'll sew very close to it. Can you see? So I'm just going to fold very close to it from one end to the other, making sure the stitch does not necessarily show on the other side. And even if it does, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now I'm done joining. I'm done stitching on it. I'm just going to zip this up and show you exactly what we have. Can you see how beautiful this turned out? So now the next thing you're going to do is to give this a very, very nice press. We are almost done. So now it's time to finish up the sleeves. Okay, so you're going to pick the two sleeves together, I mean the sides. You pick the two sleeves together, the sides, and join them together by 1 inch or whatever seam allowance you added to yours. You do that for the other side as well. Now this is what we have. So now, because you have closed it in on the wrong side, this is what it's going to look like by the time you tuck it out. So now, to finish up, you want to determine the midpoint. So I have a crease line there already, which is serving as a guide. I'm just going to take that marking all the way up because we want to impute our bust, waist, and hip measurements on the right side of the fabric now, not on the wrong side. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is to impute my chest line measurement. Mine is about 7.5 inches for my client. 7.5 inches, that is my chest line measurement. The next measurement you will impute is your front length measurement or your half length. Mine is 16.5 or 17 inches. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to impute the hip line measurements. Okay, you want to impute your hip line measurement. When you are done doing that, the next thing you're going to do is to impute your bust measurement divided by 4. Now, starting from the midpoint, please, when doing this, you could decide to add an extra 1 inch. So if my bust measurement is 40 divided by 4, that is 10. Instead of imputing 10, I could impute 11 inches from both sides of the midpoint. Okay, now the reason why you're adding extra one is just to make it a little bit freer for your client to, I mean, for you to wear, because it might be a little bit too tight. Okay, so you want to add an extra 1 inch if that is what you want, or 0.75 inch. Okay, good. Now the next thing, you're going to connect all the dots together, eliminate the sharp points just like I'm doing in the video. Then the next thing you're going to do is to stitch all the way down. Now remember, on the hip line, all the markings terminate on the hip line because of the style line. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and stitch on that point. So at this point I was done stitching on them. After you're done, the next thing you want to do is to erase the markings. That was why I said you should not use too much chalk. Erase all the markings you have, and voila, we are done with this beautiful dress. So the next thing I want to do is to finish up the hemline. Okay, you want to finish up the hemline using your hemming gum, or you can stitch on it, and also finish up the sleeve. And at the end of the day, this is what we have. Can you see how beautiful this turned out? So if this video was very helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And in case you have not subscribed to the channel already, please do well to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share with your friends, and also turn on your notification bell so you can always be the first to get notified every time we post a new video. And in case you recreate this dress, please do well to share your recreation with us on Instagram at Kayul Apparel. Make sure you are also following all our social media handles at Kayul Apparel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in my next video. Bye.